want to see. I saw this. The headline got me. I sold my startup for 100K. Hey, 100K spends. You can do a lot with 100K. So I wanted to see what this guy, what he built.
This is not a video I thought I would make this year. If you've been watching the videos, you've probably heard me talk about Rate My Dorm. Rate My Dorm, Rate My Dorm, Rate My Dorm, Rate My Dorm. Early in my YouTube career, I had the idea of building something like Rate My Professors, but for dorms. A website where college students could write reviews for their dorms. I called it Rate My Dorm, and in 2021, I decided to start a series on this channel.
Trying to think about how I like the concept. Rate My Dorm. Rate My Professor's nice because professors stick around year after year and they don't change that much. I guess a question on Rate My Dorm is, what are they rating it on? Like professors on Rate My Professor, where you got to get rated on if you were hot, you got to get rated on if you were easy to pass the class, if there was like lots of homework or something. I remember they went crazy. So it depends, what did he kind of drive it on? And in the modern day, like Rate My Professor came out quite a while ago, if I remember. And thinking through this, it's, are there already enough platforms or places where people could get this information that they wouldn't need it, right? Rate My Professor was amazing because there was nowhere else to go and it became like the standard. But how many places review buildings? That's way more popular just generally than, of course, rating an individual. So I don't know what his demand looked like, but I'm curious.
Series where I build this website in public and share everything, from writing the first few lines of code to mocking up the first designs and eventually launching the site in May 2022. I was 24 years old when everything started, and at 28, this is how it ends. This is the story of how my startup, Rate My Dorm,
Look at the difference in the face. Look at that. Hope, excitement, a great chain.
And at 28,
maturity. Look at the eyes even got a little darker. Because, yeah, he's been putting in the work. People don't realize this, but working on a startup fundamentally changes you. It's like, when you go through something that's incredibly difficult, especially if you really do it, like there's a lot of people that put entrepreneur in their bio. These aren't the people I'm talking about. They were the same idiot before. Now they're just a bigger idiot later, right? I'm talking about the people that really sit there and do the typing, do the thinking, do the negotiating. It's really difficult to journey, right? It's not just like a little walk, which means you're different at the end of the journey. And I think it's, again, pluses and minuses always, but you do always gain that maturity, that confidence, that bass in your voice, if you will. And I guarantee that if this version of him were to meet the other version of him, this one would be like, yo, you need to level up. Like he'd be on his younger version self for sure.
This is how it ends. This is the story of how my startup, Rate My Dorm, got acquired for 6 figures. I was sitting on my sofa 2 months ago when I randomly got an Instagram DM from someone named David. David was interested in acquiring Rate My Dorm through the company that he founded, Jenny. The message wasn't totally random though. I posted this video last year sharing that Rate My Dorm got its first sponsor, making money.
Good sign right here. It's one of the things that people don't realize, but the ability to show that you can generate revenue, like the first dollar, super important. The ability to show that you can generate consistent revenue, or if it starts growing. I've worked with startups that for 2 years, 3 years, the founder just refused to give up and just focused on, how can I get customers? And I know there's need, like one of those just, thankfully it works and it's working, but a hard-headed founder in that way. And as soon as he got a little bit of revenue, now all these big shot investors who never gave us the time of day at all are now like, hey, how's it going? Hey, glad to get your investor update. It's like, there it is. You do not realize how important it is in terms of what it enables, right? A little bit of revenue and you can kind of sell your business, as we see here. A lot of revenue and you can definitely usually sell your business, again, barring some acts of God and some not so great things.
Paid for 2 ads on every page. This is a big moment for Rate My Dorm. That sponsor was Jenny, and David paid me to put a display ad on Rate My Dorm for the summer. Jenny is an AI tool that helps students with their research and their writing. With Rate My Dorm having traffic comprised of all US college students, this was a partnership that made sense. So
this is a perfect example of finding partners in non-competing but aligned industries. It's something I'm always pushing clients to do, is to find people in the space, in the world, that are already talking to your customer. And maybe for a couple $100, as we see here, you have access to tons of them, and you get to borrow somebody else's brand. And I'm not just saying you hand them 500 and they insta do it, but sometimes building a little relationship, building some rapport, showing, in this case, this guy, showing him that, Jenny is legit and worth being a sponsor. Who knows? He may have said yes to anything just for the sake of getting money in the platform. But if we're thinking like long term, if we're thinking, planning, then this is what it looks like.
David was thinking that if Jenny acquired Rate My Dorm, the organic traffic that Rate My Dorm gets, from students looking up dorm rankings, dorm reviews, that traffic could potentially lead to signups for Jenny. My first impression to his Instagram DM was that I'm so down to sell. It makes so much sense for Jenny to acquire Rate My Dorm, for them to put the student traffic to good use. With that said, I told David I was interested, and then he asked the big question, how much? It was a hard question, figuring out how much Rate My Dorm is worth. I'd be selling a site that doesn't really have a revenue model. All it did have was about 40,000 monthly visitors. Plus,
so here's an important piece. How much is really a negotiation, and it's all a negotiation always, because again, even at the biggest levels, it's all about leverage and market timing and who needs what more, right? How desperate are you to sell? How desperate are they to buy? There's a lot of like compounding and complicated factors, but especially in the early days when revenue is minimal, market positioning is uncertain. He's got some activity, but unless you can consistently turn that activity into revenue, eventually the activity will likely not pan out. So you can be really active, but unless you're crazy active all the time and growing insanely, a little hard to do. You need to be like a real viral business, not just a business with consistent traffic. All of this becomes hey, how much are we worth to you fundamentally? Like if I'm the big company and he's the little company, I go, well, how much am I willing to pay for this? And I think about that internally. I'm willing to pay up to 500K because that's how much I have in my budget. That's how much value we think, if we get 50,000 views per month and 500 of them convert to our customers, how much does that mean? Like you start doing real math to understand potential value. Now notice, this is all potential. It's all theoretical. This is why understanding what you're buying, doing the due diligence where you review everything and get a good sense of, what's happening in this business. It's really important because what if you're buying something that looks like it's good, but it's actually junk? That's a bad outcome for the acquirer. Good outcome for the one who was acquired. And then you look at the other side, his side, it's like, all right, well, how much am I willing to take? Like I've put years of my life into this business. Do I think that I'll take anything just because it's not really going anywhere and I'm kind of done with it? Do I think that I'll take anything because life situation has just made it so an extra 50K would be amazing? Or do I think there's like this huge, big future with it? And if I'm going to sell it to you, then I better be paid accordingly for it. Like you can make whatever play you want, but remember the one who's buying, generally speaking, always has leverage over the one who's selling, especially if the one who's selling isn't an already exited founder. Like if you have tons of money, it matters a lot less because you just tell the buyer, it's like, hey, go to hell. Like I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep building it. And then often that little push, they're like, hey, I'll double the price. It's like, I bet you will. But if you're a college kid or, younger and you just want some money, then obviously if the acquirer's looking at you, they're going to try and make you an offer that you would be silly not to say no to, even if it means it's still low and means a lot of value for the acquirer in this case.
Plus or minus 20K depending on the season. Rate My Dorm is a site that I bootstrapped mid-COVID in 2021. Of course, my goal has always been to sell it, but for years the site has been a long-standing character on this YouTube channel. And if I had to end the series, it would have to be on a somewhat high note. So very transparently, I told him that I would sell it, but I wouldn't let it go for less than 6 figures. And lucky enough, he agreed.
Now this is the fun part. It's like less than 6 figures. That guy may have been going, yes, I was prepared to spend more for this, but also 6 figures. What does that mean? Saying at least 6 figures tells me low 6 figures. If you were to say mid 6 figures or high 6 figures, that also tells me something. But again, depends on how much negotiation you do. If he said, I'll sell it for no less than 6 figures, I start the conversation at 100K. Notice where he sold the business at 100K.
First option that's really fleshed out, 100K.
David and I hopped on a call and he shared with me his initial offer, an offer that adds up to $100,000. It wasn't an entirely cash paycheck. He broke up the 100K into a mix of upfront cash, deferred cash payments, and equity in Jenny. I actually thought it was a great offer. I said I'd think about it, and we spent the next few days going back and forth, discussing how to break up the 100K. I was happy with that.
The fact that he was getting equity in the new business is actually quite quite good. It's a very common play for businesses like that are public, right? They'll use their equity to buy other businesses, so that way it, you know, transfers in that way and everybody ends up owning. But often if you really believe in your equity, right, and it makes me question and wonder what's going on with Jenny over here, but it's, if you really believe in your equity, every percent of equity that you give to this guy is $1 million, $10 million of value. So if I'm him and I want to buy this, maybe he couldn't afford all the cash. That's why he had to defer some. That's why he had to do this. And he's like, I really can't. So I'm going to have to give him some equity to get him to say yes. Maybe he's just a nice guy and sees the value and wants to give him a little bit of upside for the way. Maybe if he could, he would just hand him a $100K check and move on. Now, typically when you're buying a company, there still is a transition period where they onboard your tech and you provide support and you help here and you help there. So having some deferred cash is not really a big shocker, but the equity piece is interesting.
Final figure, but what we discussed was how we wanted to split it, you know, whether it should be more or less equity. And of course, I'll share exactly what we signed on and what I got later in this video. But in the meantime, another check-in with David.
But I think this is going to be a pretty short and sweet acquisition. There's probably going to be like a lot of granular things like my lawyers will ask for. But other than that, maybe we could target everything being done, money being wired to your account by 4th of July, 5th of July. Would that be okay? Talk to you later. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
These conversations like this, they feel so surreal because you're sitting there and you're like, am I really negotiating like hundreds of thousands of dollars for something that all I did was sit in my room and just do this for a couple of years, and now just money appears like this and you're getting validated? Because not everything gets sold. Lots of businesses just die, right? They just go out of business and that's the end, you know, close the book. To get it sold, it's a huge accomplishment. Again, large or small, getting a business sold is a massive accomplishment.
I'm at this outdoor cafe. I've been going back and forth with the Jenny team, figuring out the terms that we like, and I think we finally agreed on something. So in like 3 hours, we're gonna hop on a call, go over the final contract. Pre-acquisition, I'm feeling really happy about this. Excited to kind of end Rate My Dorm on a happy note. I really see this as an opportunity to start a new chapter. There's so much I wanna do, so much stuff I wanna work on, and I just know that I'm not gonna grind on Rate My Dorm. I'm just glad that it's going into
right there. I'm not going to grind on Rate My Dorm. So it's a question of, is he done with the industry? Is he just getting older? So dorm stuff is just less interesting to him as like an industry focus or an audience focus. Is he tired of trying to make revenue where he just doesn't think revenue can be made? Is it not getting momentum? Like questions and questions and questions. All things that I'm sure factor into his decision.
Good hands. Thanks, David. Thanks, Jenny. But yeah, I have about 2 more hours, so I'm just chilling. I made it back home. I need to put together everything that Rate My Dorm owns and everything that I made under the Rate My Dorm email,
watch matching,
because Jenny is going to acquire all of that. So not only the Rate My Dorm database, the Rate My Dorm domain, I will also be handing over the social media accounts at Rate My Dorm on Instagram, 2.4K followers, not too bad. Rate My Dorm on TikTok, 3,400 followers with some pretty well-performing.
Would you look at that? Like, I talk to these founders all the time. They're like, I can't get 100,000 subscribers. Like, I'm not cool like that. It's like, will you shut the hell up? You need a few thousand. You need effectively nobody on earth to even know who you are, and people will still want to buy it. Like, don't be crying because you're not David Dobrik. You can still sell stuff and not be David Dobrik size. Like, take it easy.
Dorm videos as well. And also all of the subscriptions that I have. So like subscriptions for hosting, for the database, for like the Google Workspace to get the email at ratemydorm.com. I'm gonna work on that right now.
The admin of moving things over. Oh, what a joy. Also, his room is so California founder. It's so sick.
I think if we're all done with the signing, I wired you the money. Jed, welcome to Team Jenny. How does it feel?
You're rocking a headband in the M&A.
Okay, I'm super hyped. We're going to do great work together. Talk soon.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks. Yep. See you. Yep. Bye-bye.
I'm sure he had his lawyer on the call.
All right. The final contract has been signed on both ends. I just got the initial deposit on contract signing, which means Rate My Dorm has officially been sold to Jenny AI. Woo!
Very exciting.
Six-figure exit. I've been waiting for an opportunity to hand off Rate My Dorm to a better cause, to someone that would really appreciate the traffic it gets and the niche it's in. This has been exactly the outcome that I was hoping for all these years. I figured I'd want to sell it one day. You know, it might not be $1 million, but coming from an idea in COVID and me solo developing it.
What I kind of like is the guy who's buying it. He was in like an office. It seemed like a decent little office, but I like, you kind of see the levels. It's like, okay, the small office guy is buying the dorm room guy's thing, and he probably go up a level. And it's like the guy in the medium sized office or large office is going to buy Jenny, and then you go up, and then Google buys it at the end.
Honestly, I can't complain at all. I'm really happy. I'm officially a 6-figure exit founder.
He's flexing.
I'm going to be going full-time on Rate My Dorm. I'm going to be coding this site for the next 3 months. That's when I think I'm gonna finish it. So it's almost midnight now, and I'm gonna spend the rest of the day coding up some new features on Rate My Dorm, because this is now my full-time job. I've just been wired in to Rate My Dorm. I really want to finish this project. A lot of my hours lately have just been coding this website, seeing it through the finish line.
It's always an interesting thing. Developers and programmers will often use the word project instead of business, because to them, it's more of a project than a business. And that's a big reason why often a lot of developers and programmer types will struggle to get revenue, because they focus on the technology. They focus on the features. They focus on the building, right? Whereas a lot of other people, they focus on the sales. They're like, how could I build as little as possible and sell as most as possible, right? That's another way of looking at it. But if you look at something like it's a project's for learning and for testing and for like learning about your customer, but also learning yourself. I'm sure in his development of all of this, he probably picked up 50 new coding skills that he didn't otherwise have, because he had to, because he was the only one there doing the typing, and fair enough. But it really is a journey in thinking through, is this a project that we want to make where I just want to get better? I don't really care about the revenue. Or is this a business I'm trying to build where it's like revenue is of the utmost importance because I'm trying to hire people and pay people and scale and do more, but I need the cash in order to do so.
Even though it's 10 o'clock and I'm exhausted, all I want to do right now is code this website. This is going to be a slow grind, but I think one day Rate My Dorm can have a lot of value, and I'm just holding onto that hope because I've put in so many hours to this website. All right, guys, it's the moment you've been waiting for. What did we sign on? I have the final contract open in front of me. You know, at first I wasn't gonna be super transparent, and I was gonna title this video like 6 figures instead of 100K. But I realized I've been very transparent with everything, with the rise and fall of traffic, with all my coding and marketing secrets and tactics that I use. It's only right to end this building in public series with full transparency. So if you made it to the end, here we go. Like I showed you earlier, on contract signing, I would be getting 20K cash, so he just wired that to me, which is great. Also on signing, I was awarded $20,000 in Jenny equity. So on signing,
Fair.
I got 40K, half cash, half equity.
Key point there, 20K in Jenny equity at what valuation, right? Because 20K could, at a low valuation, good amount of shares. 20K at a super high valuation, very low shares. Maybe they use their 409A as like the basis for the equity. Maybe they use kind of a more current valuation, or what their latest round was done at. There's a lot of ways to contextualize it and decide on what they should do. But it's important. It's not just the cash value. It's how much was the equity that they were investing into. What was the valuation of the business that you're getting equity in?
The next part of the deal is 30K in Jenny equity that I get in a few months. And then for the last 30K, I'd be getting in cash, in installments for the next few months. It's pretty much exactly half cash and half Jenny equity.
Deferred equity, yeah, that makes sense. Because again, if he pulls out, or the code is this or that, and then deferred cash again makes sense. So overall, not a bad thing. I'd be curious how long he has to stick around as far as the deferred equity piece. And the cash usually hits around 12 months later. Personal experience, that's what I've seen. So it really depends, like the second piece of the cash from an exit. So it really just depends on what the specifics were.
I did ask what Jenny equity means, like when can that be liquid? He did tell me all the options, but you know, Jenny's a profitable company. I don't mind it being not all cash, diversifying my portfolio a bit. And of course, now since Jenny owns Rate My Dorm, it's nice to have some stake in the company. I want Rate My Dorm to succeed. I want Jenny to succeed. So there it is, the $100,000 breakdown. And one last thing, if you're in college or in your 20s and you're interested in becoming a UGC creator, I do have an opportunity. I'm gonna link it down below. So check it out. Thank you guys for watching and sticking around for this Rate My Dorm series. Subscribe and I'll see you guys soon.
I love it. That was a great video. Shout out, what's this guy's name again? Jed Call, shout out him. I definitely think he's built something cool, and it seems like he had the success, right? He got to sell it, and then we should celebrate that. It's not just the billion-dollar companies that matter, and often it's like they matter. They're too in the spotlight, right? And I get it; they're big and they're fancy, but there's way more of these scenarios happening where someone builds something cool and it gets bought for 100K, 500K, a couple million in the bank can change your life. And if you don't believe me, it's like if I handed you $5 million right now, would your life be different? If the answer is no, then I don't want to hear it in the first place because you're already living good. If the answer is yes, then take the 100K, right? Again, depending on the business, but don't look down on just 100K because 100K can mean a lot.